Hey guys, welcome back to the Fireside. Let me ask you something, and I really want you to think about it for a minute. We've all been there, right? That moment when you're dealing with someone, and they just push your buttons. They take something that's yours, and they do it not because they need it, not because it's a genuine mistake, but just because they can, and it feels like a slap in the face. It feels like a power play. Now, imagine this person isn't some random dude on the street. It's your ex. The person you shared a life with, the person you co-parent with. And it's not just a one-time thing, it's a pattern, a drip, drip, drip of disrespect. So, I want you to honestly consider this. If this happened to you, if your ex kept repeatedly taking your stuff, your personal property, claiming they had a right to it, and laughing it off, what would you do? Would you let it slide and just replace the items? Or would you stand your ground, even if it meant taking a step that could completely blow up your already fragile co-parenting relationship? That's the exact question I found myself wrestling with. A few months ago, my entire world felt like it was revolving around this one central conflict with my ex-wife. We're both in our early 40s. I'm 41, she's 39. Our marriage ended a couple of years back, and let's just say it wasn't a clean break. There was a lot of animosity, a lot of hurt. We co-parent our 3 kids, a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 12-year-old, and we split the time with them right down the middle 50-50. No child support changes hands. The only communication we have is through a co-parenting app, and it's strictly business. It's what you might call a Cold War of co-parenting. She's moved on and remarried. Her new husband has 2 stepchildren of his own, a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old. I've never spoken to the guy, and I don't intend to. The tension started slowly, almost imperceptibly, with a phone. Our eldest son, who's 16, had his phone accidentally broken by one of his new step-siblings. It was a classic kid break stuff moment, and things happen. So, I figured, no big deal. I had an old phone lying around, a solid, perfectly good device, so I gave it to our son to use. It was a temporary solution, a kind gesture. But then, on one of our custody exchange days, our son told me his mother wasn't letting him bring the phone back. He said she was keeping it at her house. Now, listen, this wasn't some top-of-the-line gadget. It was an older phone, but it was my property. So I went to her house, and I asked for it back, politely. Her response, I have every right to confiscate it. Just like that? No explanation, no compromise. I was completely taken aback. I tried to reason with her, and she basically just told me to get over it in a follow-up email. The feeling wasn't about the phone itself. It was about the principle of the thing. It was this creeping suspicion that she was testing the boundaries. Then it happened again. My 14-year-old daughter was doing a school project and needed to borrow some of my tools. Just a small toolkit, nothing major. A wrench, a screwdriver. The kind of stuff you'd find in any home. She was at my house for the week, and she was supposed to do the assignment there. But then the custody exchange day came, and she still hadn't finished. So she packed up the tools and took them with her to her mom's place. A couple of days later, I checked in to see how the project was going. My daughter seemed a little hesitant. She told me her mom had taken the tools from her. Apparently, my ex thought it wasn't appropriate for a girl to be carrying tools around. It was the dumbest excuse I had ever heard, and once again, when I asked for them back, she flat out refused. I had the whole exchange in writing again. It was a pattern, a deliberate pattern. I was getting a knot in my stomach. It wasn't just about the phone or the tools. It was about her using our children as pawns in this stupid game. It was a fundamental lack of respect. And it was starting to feel like she was telling me, without saying the words, I don't care what you think, what's mine is mine, and what's yours, well, that's up for grabs too. The final straw came with our youngest son, who's 12. His class had an assignment on vintage technology, and I let him use my old iPod, one of those tiny, little square ones. He thought it was the coolest thing. He was so excited to talk about what it was like to not have all of your music on one phone. It was great to see him get into it. But then, the next week, he came back from his mom's house without it. My ex had decided that her 13-year-old stepchild had a similar assignment, so she just kept my iPod for him to use. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a conscious decision to give my property to her stepson. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not some Grinch. But this wasn't about helping out. This was about entitlement. It was about her seeing something that was mine and just taking it. And she wasn't asking. She was telling me. This time, I didn't mince words. I sent her a message crystal clear. That's my property. You need to give it back. Her response? Another refusal. Another email exchange, her telling me I needed to get over it. My patience, which was already paper thin, snapped. I looked at the 3 email exchanges, one for each item, and I knew what I had to do. I had to show her that this wasn't a game, that her actions had consequences. So I contacted the police. Now, before you go and say I'm being in a hole, hear me out. I didn't want to get law enforcement involved. It was the last resort. But what was the alternative? To let her keep taking my property? To let her teach our kids that their belongings, or my belongings, were fair game if they were in her house? No way. So I filed a police report. I explained the situation, showed them the email exchanges, and they took it seriously. They called her. She lost her mind. Absolutely went ballistic. She gave the stuff back. But the phone call I got was just wild. She accused me of being spiteful, of using the police over petty stuff. She said I was escalating things for no reason. She even told me I could have just waited until her stepkid was done with the iPod to ask for it back. As if that was ever on the table. I told her exactly what I was thinking. You were never going to give it back. And what I give to my kids is for my kids. It's not for your stepkids. She brought up how much more serious trouble could have come from a police report. And I just told her, it would have been deserved, because you can't just steal someone else's property. She tried to use the dumbest argument I've ever heard, saying that it wasn't a big deal, or I never would have given the items to my kids in the first place. That's when I laid it all out. The phone was given to our son because her stepkid broke his. The tools were for a school assignment. The iPod was for a school assignment. The items weren't for her or her family. They were for my kids. And I'm not here to help her or her new family. They have their own parents and their own resources. So I got my stuff back. The items weren't worth much, not in dollars and cents. But the principle, that was priceless. And now I'm left to wonder, was I being in a hole for going to the police? Or was I right to stand my ground and show my ex that there are lines you just can't cross? What would you have done? Let me know in the comments below.